Ever wonder what happened to a gladiator after the roar of the crowd faded and the dust settled in the Colosseum? What happened after the fight, when the wounds were real and the threat of death lingered long after the swords were sheathed? Most people picture a brutal end, but the reality is far more complex and surprisingly modern. The life of a gladiator was a massive investment. Owners weren't keen on losing valuable assets, so they employed highly skilled physicians to patch these warriors up and get them back in the arena. This wasn't mystical healing or prayer. It was the birth of sports medicine and trauma care, forged in the crucible of the ancient world's most dangerous game. These physicians worked within the stone walls of the ludi, the gladiatorial schools. Here they practiced a raw, effective form of battlefield medicine. Every day was a lesson in anatomy, driven by the urgent realities of blood loss, shattered bones, and gaping wounds. They saw firsthand how blades sliced through muscle, how blunt force trauma affected the body, and how bones could either splinter into nothing or be guided back to strength. This was pure empirical knowledge, worlds away from the speculative theories of temple healers. Their Bible wasn't scripture, but the practical writings of figures like Hippocrates, and later, the legendary Galen. In fact, Galen, one of the most influential physicians in history, spent his early years as a doctor to gladiators in his home city of Pergamon. The things he learned there couldn't be found in any scroll or library. He meticulously documented different types of wounds and his surgical techniques, creating some of the earliest medical case studies we have. He saw how the human body performed under extreme stress, how to stabilize a wounded man before shock or infection could claim him, and which interventions worked for specific injuries. Galen's time in the ludi was a masterclass in human physiology under duress. Imagine the scene. Long after the crowds have gone home and the arena sand, stained crimson, has been swept clean. In the quiet lamplight of the infirmary, these physicians were hard at work. They were sewing torn flesh, carefully setting broken bones, and experimenting with a whole pharmacy of ointments. They used herbs, minerals, and even animal products, constantly searching for the perfect combination to reduce pain, stop decay, and restore a fighter's mobility. This approach was deeply Roman, practical, efficient, and results-oriented. The empire was built on engineering, law, and conquest, all serving the goal of control and continuity. The human body was no different. It was a system to be maintained, optimized, and returned to full function. If you think ancient surgery was just a butcher's job, you'd be mistaken. The tools these doctors used are astonishingly familiar. Archaeologists have found collections of scalpels, forceps, hooks, probes, and even catheters. Their bronze edges might be worn, but their design is unmistakable. This level of precision shows a deep confidence in their surgical practice. These weren't hacks working in the dark. They were craftsmen of the human body, operating with necessity as their guide and direct observation as their teacher. Their methods were surprisingly rational. Wounds were cleaned with wine or vinegar, which we now know have mild antiseptic properties. They applied compresses made from honey, which was known even then for its ability to inhibit infection. To treat fractures, they used wooden splints and linen bandages, soaked in mixtures to keep swelling down. Dislocations weren't yanked back into place with brute force, but corrected through careful, gentle traction and manipulation. In these practices, you can see a clear understanding of cause and effect, a logical thread that connects the ancient world directly to the modern one. This was the slow, steady dawn of evidence-based medicine. To be a successful gladiator, it took more than just courage and brute strength. It required a unique partnership, a symbiosis between the fighter and the healer, a delicate balance between violence and care. The knowledge held by the men who tended these wounds didn't stay confined to the arena. It spread, influencing the medical practices of Rome's most powerful institution, its military. The Roman army developed its own network of medical officers, the medici ordinari, who established field hospitals that mirrored the efficiency of the gladiatorial infirmaries. The lessons learned from the games were directly applied to save soldiers' lives on the battlefield. The same techniques used to stop bleeding in the sand of the amphitheater were used to treat legionaries wounded in distant lands. Speed and precision were paramount in both worlds. While the primary goal was to preserve a valuable asset, be it a gladiator or a soldier, These utilitarian methods inadvertently pushed the art of healing forward for everyone. The patient was valued for their function, but the act of preserving that function advanced medicine itself. So what's the direct link between gladiatorial medicine and the trauma care we have today? It's not a straight line, but a shared methodology. It's a philosophy built on observation, experimentation, and adaptation based on real-world outcomes. The Romans, though a deeply religious people, understood that a severed artery couldn't be healed with prayer alone. So, their doctors learned to tie off blood vessels, cauterize wounds to stop bleeding, and even design specialized tools to reach deep into the body, to places the naked eye couldn't see. In this sense, the amphitheater became an unintentional laboratory of human anatomy. Every injury, every successful or failed treatment contributed to a growing encyclopedia of human endurance and fragility. The Medici learned to recognize the signs of shock, how a weakening pulse could signal impending death, and how certain postures or compressions could sustain life for just a few more critical moments. They were the first responders of their time, laying the groundwork for the emergency medical procedures that save lives today. The next time you see a gladiator in a film, remember the unseen figures who stood ready in the wings, the physicians whose quiet revolutionary work was just as crucial to the games as the fighters themselves. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into the hidden history of medicine as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories from the ancient world. See you next time.